Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the installment of Scott's Selections here for Wednesday, September 16th. A quick announcement. I know that since there are pretty much no sporting events going on today with no NBA and no NHL, baseball was in the mood to give out a play today on. So since there's nothing to talk about on today's card, I decided to do a look-ahead video on the upcoming UFC card coming up this Saturday. I know I ended up doing a UFC video by myself last weekend, and I decided that since there's nothing to talk about today and I was going to do the UFC video anyway, might as well do it here for Wednesday. So we're going to be doing a deep dive here on a two-pick parlay in the upcoming fight night Saturday card between Covington and Woodley. Now, I know the two-pick parlay last week ended up winning, as we ended up having Quarantillo alongside Romanov on the money line, and those two ended up cashing very easily as they won inside the distance. So we're going to be doing another two-pick parlay here in the upcoming UFC card. And without further ado, we're going to dive right in. And the first matchup is going to be on a women's matchup between Mara Romero Barea and Mayra Bueno Silva. We're going to be going with Bueno Silva here on the money line at minus 245 on Bet Online as the first leg of this two-pick parlay. Couple of reasons why I like the favorite in this spot. First of all, these two fighters have been heading in opposite directions, as Barea has lost each of her last three fights. If she loses this fight, she's probably going to end up getting cut from the UFC because she has not looked great at all in her last couple of fights. She lost to Lauren Murphy by knockout. She lost to De La Rosa by decision. And she lost to Courtney Casey by submission in her last fight back in May. Now, she's also lost four of her last five. She is 34 years old. She has an 11-8 overall record, and she just simply hasn't looked overmatched in her last couple of fights. Against Casey, she looked okay in the beginning, but she got a little bit too aggressive in the ground and pound, and she ended up leaving herself susceptible to an armbar, which ended up ending her fight. Meanwhile, Bueno Silva's 5-1. She is 29 years old. She did get a little bit sidetracked, which is why she's only had 6 fights because she had a couple of knee issues in the past. But she's fully healthy, and she has looked really good over the course of her career. She was undefeated before losing to Morose in her last fight in a decision. A very solid fight overall, and Morose is no pushover, as Morose is currently 10-3 in her career. Solid fighter out of the Ukraine, and she should be a very solid fighter in the UFC in the future. So I'm not going to read much into Bueno Silva. I think this is definitely a step down in competition for her. And Bueno Silva has announced publicly something that I do enjoy when I back a fighter. It's that she is not overlooking Barea at all. She announced, according to MMA Junkie in an interview that she ended up giving out, she ended up saying that she does expect to win. She did predict a victory by either knockout, submission, or decision. But she said that she finds her opponent tough, and she thinks that she will be able to take care of business, but she is definitely not overlooking her opponent, which is what I like to hear from a huge favorite, which means that she should be looking to take care of business, and I think she will be able to do so against a fighter who is most likely on her last legs in the UFC. So if you want to compare it to the other prices on the market, Bueno Silva opened up at minus 240 and bet up to roughly minus 250, but Bet Online still is minus 245. So that's going to be the first bet in this two-pick parlay. And the second play is going to be on the second main matchup here between Mearshart and Chimaev, and it's going to be on Chimaev money line at minus 355. Now, I know at first glance you might be saying to yourself, minus 355, there's no value on that whatsoever. And I actually disagree with you because I think that there is a ton of value on that based on the money line prices at other spots. If you want to break it down, DraftKings has Chimaev at minus 500. FoxBet has minus 500. So FoxBet and DraftKings both at the same price, minus 500. And FanDuel has money line at minus 430. So you're picking up roughly 80 cents of juice minimum on Chimaev money line here. And I think that that is a steal and a half. Now, if you want to actually talk about Chimaev in this fight, Chimaev has been the most dominating UFC fighter that I've seen since Khabib. He simply just ragdolls people, he destroys people, and nobody really stands in his way. If you want to break down his last couple of fights, it was victory by mauling pretty much, as he ended up winning his first 2 UFC fights in completely just dominating fashion. And I think he will do something similar to that on Saturday. Chimaev's 8-0 in his career. He's undefeated, fighting out of Sweden. If you break it down, though, he ended up beating John Phillips by submission in the second round and ended up beating Reese McKee by first-round knockout in his last fight. If you want to break down those 2 fights combined, he's outstruck his opponents by about 120. So he just absolutely destroys people. He'll take them down, he'll ragdoll them, ground and pound, and then either take the neck or just take their head off. And Mearshart has been known in his career as a UFC veteran. He's pretty much a submission specialist, as he has 23 of his 31 wins by knockout, by submission, I mean. But it is worth mentioning that he has been struggling a bit lately at the age of 32, as he has lost 4 of his last 6 fights. He's lost 2 of his last 3. He got knocked out in embarrassing fashion back in June against Ian Heinisch in the first minute and 14 seconds of the fight. And simply put, I simply think that Meerschaert, despite being a very solid fighter in his career, I just think that Chimaev is on a different level. I think Chimaev is going to be competing for a championship in 2021. I think he's really just that good. And the UFC agrees with me because the UFC ended up double booking Chimaev, which means that in addition to fighting this fight, they already booked him for his next fight. So the UFC thinks that Chimaev is going to run through Meerschaert, and I cannot disagree with that. I think that Meerschaert as a veteran who is a pretty tough fighter, but at the end of the day, Chimaev is just on another level. And I think Chimaev has the ability to destroy Meerschaert in the stand-up, which is where Meerschaert struggles. And despite having 23 submission wins, Meerschaert does have 8 submission losses, so his submission defense is not very good. And I think Chimaev will simply just get him into the ground and pound and then just take the back and just not let him up for the entire round. And I think Chimaev will just beat him. So for that reason, the 2-pick parlay once again here for the UFC Fight Night card with the Woodley and Covington is going to be on Bueno Silva money line at -245 and Chimaev money line at -355. And those 2 picks combined for a 2-pick parlay that pays out at -125. That's going to be the play of the day for Scott Selections here for Wednesday, September 16th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.